Shaking hands. It's no fun to extend one's hand to another individual without getting the greeting returned. It could feel quite awkward, almost like getting offended, in spite of no ill intent. And the feeling of being misunderstood when expressing a friendly gesture is also no fun. But does it have to be like this? No, it doesn't actually. It's really caused by a misunderstanding of why Muslims sometimes do not shake other people's hands. Is it, as some people claim, that Muslims believe that women are unclean or less worthy? No, that is not the case. The rule applies for both men and women, and the aim of it is the same for both sides. So, what is the point of this rule, and why is it important to Muslims? The reason for the rule is really a preventative measure, drawing the line for physical contact at an early stage. The rule might seem irrelevant for some, but all cultures do have a boundary, including the Swedish culture. Yes, and regarding issues with intimacy, we also make a distinction between genders. I think that we can all agree that in order for people to reach mutual understanding, it would require that this boundary is respected, regardless of where it is drawn by different people. Isn't it more reasonable that an individual that does not want to be touched isn't touched, than an individual who wants to touch others being allowed to do so? One might ask, why can't the Muslims just do what everybody else does, especially since people might end up feeling insulted if they don't? The thing is, for Muslims, it doesn't come down to following customs, but rather following a command from God. But why can't a Muslim just ignore some of these commandments? For example, having a piece of ham or a glass of wine with their meal, or shaking hands with the opposite sex. Well, because it comes down to one's relationship with God. To ignore these commandments means that one turns away from God. On the other hand, to obey God's commandments gives the Muslim an opportunity to get closer to God and partake in the divine wisdom behind these commandments. So now we've learned two things. First, the issue is not about following customs, but an Islamic rule that the Muslims cannot and do not want to ignore. Secondly, the reason behind the rule is not to denigrate, but to draw a line for the physical touch, the intimate. To greet each other is important. We can all agree about that. And the greeting may vary in its own way. Ultimately, it's not the expression that's important, but the intention behind it. Because, first and foremost, a greeting originates from the heart.